ask questions. We're just here to like answer questions.
That's basically
That's like our job.
It's not very formal. Yeah. If you guys want to like later get closer to your home and be back to your city.
Yeah, start to finish, how long did it take to make that robot?
Start to like if we're talking about like the full design to assembly, it was about 4 weeks coming up with the architecture, designing it, and then assembling it. It was about 4 weeks. But just assembling it itself, it takes like 2 days. Because once you have all the designs, once you have all the parts, it takes like a day and a half to assemble and another day to work.
So with your intake, you have top and bottom roller, but you also have the side rollers, right? Did you guys prototype that during like the week 1, week 2?
We saw a lot of like override teams. So we did test top roller compression. That's hard, but the side rollers, we kind of just did them in drill to like kind of see if it works. So here's what they're for. So let's say we're very off. Basically, the goal is if it racks against the wall, especially like if you're in a corner, the side will just dig it out into the actual intake. Because to package a full width intake is pretty hard with sword drive. And also, the more, like if you do make a really full width intake, then you gotta really reduce your frame limit size. So in open field, the robot just auto aligns with the note, and then against the wall, it'll still auto align, but at an angle it can be hard. So the side roll is basically just kind of center it.
Are you always auto aligning for pickup?
Almost always, yes.
Yeah, do you drive up to a certain point and then switch over to automatic pickup?
So
Or how does that process work?
So the way our auto line works is on the controls, we have an intake button. And if you hold the intake button, the robot will translate left and right to align the note in the center, but you have to keep driving forward. So there's no like real switching. You just, instead of you'll just that was auto align as well. So it's very simple the way it's written.
So it takes over the side to side.
It takes over, yes.
It's very seamless, so you're not like taking over like driving control.
Okay. And then that's, you have a limelight on there. Is that running the CAN limelight software on there, or is that?
No, it's just looking for like a one wall.
Okay. Is that a custom thing, or is that?
It's just color tracking. It's built with the limelight.
Okay. Have you always used limelight, or do you experiment with photon vision at all, or?
We've always used limelight just because it's so much less work for us to set up. It's just like it's ready off the box. It does everything.
For the robot, and how hard was it to like map the controller? Like you're talking about like physical controllers, like
So this controller has back buttons as well. Okay. And every single button on the controller does something. And there's also combinations where like two buttons will do something. One of the biggest reasons we bought the controller with back buttons is because we decided that we wanted to be like two human players instead of a driver, operator, human player. So that meant like only one person could physically control the entire robot. So there's a lot of mapping, but we have heading snaps. So like if you pull the button down, the robot will snap to a heading. Okay. Which are mainly face buttons because you have to take your right hand off the rotation stick. It's kind of heavy this year. Like the entire control map, but we try to keep it as simple as possible. So although everything on the controller does something, you don't use everything every match. Yeah, usually like the main, so like the shoot and button, the pickup buttons, they're all like very easy to access. They're like base buttons or paddles. And anything more like specific, where like a reset gyro, so like when we reset our gyro, it's input buttons that you press simultaneously. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's like really specific things that we don't want to access. We want the
For example, when the arm is so like if our arm is zeroed out, how many surfaces one would not normally press, so you can't like accidentally zero the arm in like the hand position. So any very specific motions that the robot has to do is usually 2 buttons. 2 buttons will also, like, we try to use those only if we have to, so it's probably only gonna happen once a match. So, yeah, we try to keep it as simple as possible. That's our path.
Is your pass position based where you are on the field?
It's a heading snap, but location on the field, we just have a set position. We like top right outside of our. Okay.
So you just manually.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it does. We kind of figured out what position we wanted to be from based on the pass angle. So,
Yeah, it doesn't change its angle based on the position. It's slide on.
we also have a couple of fails in case like the line might stop working. We have this manual on Instagram. It's a shot from top there. That's because you use the limelight in the arm. You know that's a safe spot. We also have overhead. There's also like a safe spot that you know is already a heading snap. So we try to plan around failures during a match, even if they are unlikely to occur.
So when you guys are like timing the passing question, you guys have the far pass and then the flat pass, right? So is that the same button or?
Or like this pass.
Yeah, like your flat pass and then your pass from.
Those are 2 different buttons, and one of the reasons that was possible is because we have so many buttons on our controller. If we had a driver and an operator, this pass would have probably been on the operator's controller, I think. Yeah, we try to have separate buttons for everything. Yeah.
We don't go through the functionality for
Okay. Well, the sticks are the same. X, if you have a note, this is on one of the back buttons, and then X is the home. A is to line up with the finger. D is our overhead shot. Y is our heading back. Like I said, this is our hand shot. This is our top shot on also the back button. Our hangers are also on the back because we only use them once a match, so it's not really that important. So just hang her up, or hang her down. So that's it. somewhere, but and then we have like more specific buttons. So our reset gyro is like these two tiny buttons. So you don't want to accidentally hit those during the match, because yeah, all the little functionalities, like I said before, are on small buttons, but you don't want to accidentally press those during the match. Yeah, so some buttons has just the press functionality and a hold. So for the amp example, just tapping the amp button, just bring the arm to the amp position. But if you hold it, it'll give you a heading snap to where the amp is on the field. We have a lot of those this year, so this is a heading snap. This is a heading snap. Our mass and amp are also both heading snap. This just helps because you don't have to like manually align, manually rotate over. So it's a quick and easy fix. Yeah.
The big thing with the fence is you can override the line lights. Actually, huge entire crash.
One of the things we did into the season, after we had our robot built, we tried to like automate the amp. So it would like, basically what we do with the speaker, but it'll like drive to the amp by itself and then go to the arm position. What we figured, like that just didn't work for us because of the limelight position of our like arm amp position. It just wasn't that smooth. So what we did is we gave just a heading snap, and then we trusted that with enough practice, you don't need it automated. So a big thing about that is we don't try to automate everything. We automate what we need to do, and then everything else we try to make as simple as possible for the driver to accomplish.
If your automation is going to be worse than the driver practice, then don't automate. So the amp line is worse than the driver manually lining themselves, so there's no point in having that.
And the heading snap and amp automation we came up with after New Market. So at New Market, it was like you had to go to the position and then manually rotate wherever the amp was. And then after New Market, we figured that wasn't going to be as fast as we actually wanted it to, no matter how much driver practice was put in, because sometimes like you just won't be facing right, or sometimes you'll have your vision blocked, or something could happen, right? So we automated it in the best way we felt possible. Another thing we discovered, or not recently, but further into the season, post-match, is when drive practice was happening, sometimes the note would be launched in a weird way, where we only had the intake reverse, so only the intake was reversed. And what we figured out is sometimes the note was too far up, the intake reverse wouldn't be enough. So what we also did is, along with that, we reversed the shooter wheels. So the entire robot would like feed backwards, so you could flush out anything in the robot. That just happened because, like, as we were driving around, the note was in a weird position. The intake button didn't work, and then we told our mentors, and then we thought of a fix like together. So that kind of stuff only happens if you keep pushing the robot to the absolute limit it can go. Because if you just build the robot, drive it around for a little, and then get to a comp and that happens, that's really unfortunate because now you can't get the note out of off for the entire match. So we try to troubleshoot as much as we can after the robot's built.
Yeah, that was like one of our priorities, never jam. So it jammed once throughout the entire season. If we did jam, we always had a way to reject it, unless like what happened was the one match where like two notes double barreled themselves on top of each other into the intake. So that was not ideal. Oh yeah. Another thing that we happened at our first event is like extremely unlikely that's but basically the amp missed and the note landed and tapped our breaker, which is like right here. So that caused us to like lose power, but like only for like 5 seconds. It was really good. But so we made a cover for that. So the breaker's a 30-minute cover. So even though the breaker was super inside the robot, very protected, it's still somehow got hit. So they even cover with that kind of protected it.
At what point do you spin up the shooter wheels?
So I try to do it as early as possible. So when I'm running full field, I try to do it like the moment I cross my half because shooter wheels do take time to like spin up the speed. So if you just do them earlier, it's better. But also, more importantly, with our auto line, the further you track, the better. Because if you're standing right here and you're facing like this, and you hit the auto line, it's gonna take longer to auto line and then longer to shoot. So we try to minimize our cycle time as much as possible. So the way I've always been doing it is like before I enter my zone, like I spin them up because like it's automated for me, so I'm trying to get the fastest cycle time as possible.
So is that a manual button, and then as soon as it's aligned, it'll fire?
Yeah, so the shooter spin button and the auto line button are on the same button. So you can spin up the shooter and auto line at the same time. So it's just one button.
The shot.
The final action, like the note flying out is a different button, but like the wheel spin up and the auto line is the same button.
That would be driving through that.
Okay, so a neat thing we have is when you pick up a note, along with the LED signal, the controller will also rumble. So if you're blind picking up or you can't see or if you're not sure if you have a note and you can't see the lights, it's good driver feedback, which we always try to do, which we've always done, like LED lights. Different lights indicate different conditions, I guess. So a white light means we're holding a note. That means we're not. Yellow is when we're auto. When you're spun up to shoot, red means you can't shoot, and blue means you're ready to shoot. So that's another driver feedback. So you'll never have to like guess if the robot's ready or not. On the field, you can see way less than you actually think. So having bright, clear indications like this is really good for like the person driving behind the glass.
Did you ever consider just having the robot shoot on its own when both conditions are met?
We've never done that because there may be certain times when you don't want it to do so. Because suppose like a 4-foot tall defender is playing defense on you, and you can still see the tag, but they're like right in front. Okay, that can't happen. But like you can somehow see the tag, but they're also right in front of you.
Only covers one.
Yeah. You don't want to shoot. So we always give the final action to control of the driver.
Or if there's a defender barreling downfield about the clock here, you don't want to shoot in that moment. So the trigger to shoot is always the last driver.
Or if your sensors go. The driver should have the final say.
Yeah, because ours automatically shoots, but like for whatever reason doesn't see it. We just have the backup.
So this is more of like a drive practice question. But when you're practicing, like, what are the first things that you do to like to practice during the time that you have? And then what's the main thing you practice?
This year because I didn't have any driving experience last year. The very first thing I did for like a week, 2 weeks was straight movement, nothing else. Just translation, rotation, and then we did like figure eights around the stage because. Especially with third drive, you need to be as quick and smooth as possible. And there's no point learning the entire robot and like what it does if you can't move it properly. So for the first 2 weeks, I just spent like driving, just straight driving, up, down field, drills like that. And then slowly after that, we started like every skill at a time. So we didn't just run in, pick up a note, come, drive down the field, score, and whatever. We worked on pickups for like 3 days. And then we did just speaker shots for 3 days, and then like you pick up speaker shot, and then we used to amp for 3 days, and then pick up amping, and then like you slowly combine everything. So like you get the fundamental skills of everything, and then only you put it together. Because if you just start driving this like how you drive it at the end of the season, it's not as effective in my opinion. But yeah, we took it. I think we took it fairly slow at the beginning, and then near the end, we kind of ramped everything up. So like, and then we ran like 215 near the end. We ran like a full match of like autos and then pickups. Yeah, I think taking it one thing at a time is beneficial, especially to like completely new drivers who've never been on the sticks. That's like very.
Are you guys also limiting your speed as you're like training and driving? So you'll start like maybe at a lower speed and then ramp up as you go, or
I don't know how we've done it in the past, but we don't, because this is what I personally think. I don't even know if this is what would happen, but if I started practicing on a lower speed and then I got a higher speed, I would expect my full stick to look different than what it actually is. And I might find it harder to control it at full speed. So when we start, we drive slowly, but we don't limit anything. So like you'll get used to the robot moving slowly and your stick being like halfway up. And then as you keep going, like nothing changes. So it's easy for translation and rotation.
okay.
How do you balance out the relationship between drivers want to practice the game tasks and mechanical and programming wants to fix and tweak problems with the robot at the same time?
So
That's a careful one to balance.
yeah.
But the drive team has access to this room every day at lunch, every day right after school, not on the days that we're meeting. So generally, the days that we're here, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, those days are reserved for development, upgrades, whatever we're doing to improve the performance of the machine. And then the drive team is in here practicing the other days, when it's very, very easy for them to just, in between classes, they come down to lunch. They jam their food down their throats, and then they practice for half an hour and then go to the next class. So we make it very, very easy for them to come in and practice on their own. And then the days that we are meeting are more or less reserved for machine upgrades, and auto development. Or if there's something specific, a specific skill that we want to practice, like passing. We devoted a couple of days to passing towards the tail end of the season when the game meta started shifting more towards passing. We developed that whole pass functionality where the robot just kind of snaps, puts it at the right speed, the right shooter, so that when the driver puts the robot in the right place and sends it, the note is going to land right in front of the amp every single time. So they get time to practice on their own, separate from our regular games. And we make it very, very easy for them to do that and have it not impact their school, not impact anything else outside of our regularly scheduled meetings.
I think what's hard is whenever we do like sometimes practice during actual games, you always get interrupted and kind of just lose it. You practice for like 10 minutes and all of them, you gotta take one of the shoes and stuff. So yeah, so during lunch.
It's very helpful being in a school, like, because you can come in at lunch. But also because, like, some of us are in grade 12 now, so we end up having spares, so we can also come in for that. Whereas,
Is that
yeah, study period. But yeah, so it's just a convenience thing as well, because we're out of school, we practice during lunch, spares, days that we're not here. And then other times it's just devoted to school and weekends. And sometimes we do both, like even on build days, if we have nothing to do and vendors only show up at like 4, we'll drive from 2 to 4. So it's just about finding the right balance.
And since sometimes if you practice in combat, but usually you come in full field. Sometimes.
Yeah, quite often we'll be developing machine upgrades on one machine while they're practicing with the other, while they're writing autonomous modes with the other, or doing whatever that might be. We'll have that robot in the field with the shooter apart, and then you hear they're practicing on whatever that is. So like, having 2 machines is still a big performance thing. More questions?
You should give me this for Christmas. Don't you make good presents for Christmas? She.
hour, like top speed when you were aiming at the speaker. So what is it equal to? It's like max.
Yeah, when the robot's driving unrestricted, the max speed's about 16 feet a second. While the driver holds the auto aim button, it's capped at about 8 feet per second. And the reason we do that is when we're moving, we have to lead the target by however much we need to, so that the robot driving backwards this fast plus the note going that fast, it's still going to hit. So the shooter has to make all these little fine adjustments while you're accelerating or decelerating. So in order to keep up with that, we just cap the robot max speed while you're auto aiming at something a little more reasonable. And 8 feet a second is still fast. Like 10 years ago, 8 feet a second was like, that was the top speed of robots. So it's not like really. Yes.
How far can you shoot realistically? How far do you want to shoot?
We can shoot from about the wing line. So roughly about there. That note is terrible. With particularly worn notes, the shooter at range suffers with really worn notes. With a good note, we can hit that. But realistically speaking, right here, you pop out underneath the chain and shoot from here. This is kind of the ideal spot. This makes your cycle to the human load station the shortest. And the only time we're shooting not from here is if you're playing like a passing strategy where you're picking up mostly in the corner, and then you're just like shooting from here all day long. Or if there's a tall defender, maybe we're going to the podium. But I mean, this is kind of, the machine was designed to shoot from right here. The whole architecture was built around kind of that shot.
It's also about like minimizing your time cycles. Like the whole point of the game is to get more cycles than the other person. That's how you get more points. So this we just figured out was the fastest path for us, especially.
Yeah.
Oh,
right. The other thing, like, we designed the robot to shoot from here. After Newmarket, we modified the shooter to be able to shoot from here purely for autonomous, so that we could grab this node, come just inside the wing line, send it, and get back to the midline as quick as possible, without having to drive like all the way here, which is where we would shoot from with kind of our first event. So the wing line shot was kind of contentious point on the team whether we needed to shoot from there or not, and it was really beneficial in auto. But outside of auto, just drive 3 feet closer and shoot a 95% shot instead of a 65% shot. Yes.
At what point did you say we're not doing the trap?
As a team, about Wednesday of week 1. Me, about Saturday night.
one of the things, all the architectures we had for trap were really not good. So,
Yeah, we couldn't come up with a simple way to do it and not compromise the rest of the functionality of the robot. Because pretty well everyone that trapped designed their whole robot around trapping and then like figured out a way to shoot at the same time. But it was a shooting game. Like the trap wasn't the be all end all of matches. And I go into this more in the presentation this afternoon if you can be there. But yeah, the trap was not. Trap was not. It was a trap. Trap was a trap. More questions.
Really quick, one change we made to the hanger, the hook at Newmarket was just the one like underneath.
It was just the bottom one.
Yeah. And sometimes we would fail to partner time because they were pulling the chain too tight and we like physically couldn't reach. So then our other design was just like the big hook. And then one of our mentors, he cooked up, and then he came up with a double strategy. The strategy mentor, he came up with a double hook idea, where if you're hanging by yourself, you go on the small hook, and if you're hanging with a partner, you go on the big hook. The only downside to the big hook is you can't hang like in the middle because the robot will still be touching the floor, so you have to like move further to the side. But if you're hanging with a partner, you're already on the side, so it's not that important. But it was more so like when you're solo climbing, don't get the chain stuck on the big one. A big part of it.
so this is cool.
This is where the divot is.
Yeah, it is.
So there's like a low spot on the floor. There used to be a floor drain, like right around standing. So the floor actually like slopes back here. And because the robot is like took back, that throws off the like distance estimation for the vision. So now the shooter is like aiming too low because it thinks it's further away than what it actually is. So the vision calibration, we calibrate on each field at each end. So this is the calibration from the last event that we attended, which was a gymnasium floor that was like, whereas now we've got this like half-degree slope because the floor is terrible. And that actually affects the light distance measurement. When you're shooting from back here, you have like a 1 degree window in order to hit with your shooter for the elevation. So you have to be able to range the target very, very accurately, and then put your shooter, within a degree, which is very difficult. Whereas if you just shoot from here, you have like a 3 degree window to hit, and it's a much, much easier shot. This was just for auto to shoot from way back here.
It requires calibration.
More questions?
Just general opinions, where does this one rank? I would say the last 5 or 6 years of what you've
I'm
built.
asking you to choose your favorite child.
Which one's your favorite child?
This one was pretty good. I don't know why I'd say it's the best, but it's tough to compare them across generations. Because robots 10 years ago were vastly different than what we build now, just because the technology has come so far. What we can do now with, you buy a $300 limelight, you stick it on the front, and then you can do these fantastic things with automated aiming and vision that were not possible 10 years ago. So it's tough to compare robots across generations and say this one is definitively better than this one, because the general caliber of robots now is light years better than the general caliber of robots from even 5 years ago. So it was pretty good. Last year was pretty good too, but they were generally all pretty good. We'll throw it up on the cart. You guys can take a look, ask more questions. But that's about all we got.
The other thing is how like the wood moves, but
Things that are new on this that you've never done before. Any new technology, like what would be new technology? Really, had not done before.
To be honest,
I want to.
like Disney 2020 is kind of the my whole talk this afternoon is about how the modern era of FRC is evolving. But really post 2020, really 2019, robot design changed dramatically just with brushless tools, with the vision solutions we have now. There's a handful of factors that all evolve into it. And literally, I have an hour and a half talk this afternoon, so if you're there for it, I love to chat. But there's nothing new on this one that we haven't done. There are some very old, like the hang. It's a game piece tracking. Okay, yeah, the game piece tracking. That is definitely something.
What is that? Sorry?
The game piece tracking.
Oh, yeah.
But even that was just orange block. Like it wasn't machine learning, vision, pattern matching, and note or other sample data sets. It was look for the orange blob and then shift the robot one way or the other. It really wasn't rocket science.
We also did a bunch of hiding functions here, which was new-ish, but not like complicated to do.
Yeah, it's point the robot downfield when I hold this button.
Yeah.
It's not crazy, but it helps.
There must be a discussion somewhere is, why wouldn't we do the A-frame? We've done A-frames for 10 years, solid. There must be some conversation is this the year where we don't? And that lasts about 2 minutes? Because it's every one of your robots is proven to be functional.
It's a strong structure.
It's A-frame every time.
How else would you do it? Like you have to support this pivot.
We can show you.
Yeah, right. We've got to come to that. We'll show you how
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Okay.
We tried that.
Yeah, making this whole pivot really rigid was a big part of it. Like, if that shooter is deflecting a degree, you're gonna miss. So making this structure like rock solid was a big part of the design.
And now with your swerve, all your base is built, everything's mounted to the base. It's not, right?
Yes.
It's your base can be built quickly, and then modularly A-frame goes right on top of it.
Yeah, designing a chassis. Again, this is largely what I'm talking about this afternoon.
Okay, good.
Designing
I'll
that
do
chassis.
I'll wait. Okay.
You guys would like to come up, we have our robot on display now, so if you'd like to have like a look inside, ask any more questions about like.
Just don't touch it.
Yeah, please don't touch anything inside.